Hi guys, welcome back to Wentworth Life, the YouTube channel that talks everything Wentworth. If you're new to the channel, then make sure that you've hit that subscribe button right now for all future updates. And as usual, if you stick around until the end of this video, I will be responding to some of your comments from a previous video. And just a little warning that this video will contain spoilers, as I will be delving into all the ins and outs of Season 8 Episode 4. So make sure that you've already seen this week's episode if you don't want spoilers. Okay, now, oh wow, that is what you call an episode. In fact, I'm just going to say this right now, that was a 10 out of 10 episode. This is literally the moment we've all been waiting for, the freak's proper return with explanations of how she got out of that bloody box. And I'm going to be talking about every single detail of that in this video, so make sure you grab yourself a cup of tea or a cup of coffee, because this is going to be a big long video with a lot of ground to cover. So let's get started. So just before we do jump into the Ferguson stuff, I just wanted to quickly chat about Judy Bryant, because she had quite a full episode last week, and this week her storyline was slightly put on the back burner. But there are still a few things that we need to talk about with her, and then we'll jump into the Ferguson stuff. Alright guys, so Judy started off with having a new haircut, which I really liked. It makes her character look a bit more unique, and it makes her stand out. So anyway, Judy makes a point in this episode of telling the girls that her lawyer is coming in to see her. But Judy is under the impression that it's going to be this hotshot lawyer that her dad has hired from the UK. But she later learns that it's just someone from legal aid, basically. And Judy gets frustrated that she's not allowed to make any phone calls, or she's not allowed to ring her dad. Which, by the way, hasn't one of those new characters got a mobile phone? I can't remember her name now, but you know that really pretty girl with dark hair? Looks a little bit like Costa. She's got a mobile because Luke Kelly was trying to get one off her back in episode 1. So why doesn't Ali just get the phone off her for a little bit? Like, just borrow it. If she's top dog, then what she says is gospel, isn't it? Found it a bit weird. But anyway, Vera does agree to let Judy have a private supervised phone call in her office. I don't think Vera has told Reynolds about this either, so I think this might come back to bite Vera in the bum at some point. But when Judy makes the phone call, we as viewers are led to believe that her dad is just a little bit of a cock, basically, and he hangs up on her. But I thought the conversation was rather weird. So did you notice that when Judy mentioned the word lawyer to her dad in the conversation, that do you guys think that it meant something else? As she repeated it twice and seemed very nervous while saying it. So I think maybe lawyer was code for something else. And also, just before her dad did hang up on her, he called her Peanut. Now, I think Peanut is also a code for something else, just between these two. I don't think this was just a random scene to show Judy Bryant's dad being horrible to her and hanging up. I think Judy and her dad definitely have code words to chat to each other, which I think we will learn more about in upcoming episodes. But this also leads me on to think, is Judy as innocent as she makes out? Is Judy Bryant a terrorist? I mean, we are being led to believe that the whole Australian government are corrupt, and don't get me wrong, there's probably some truth to that in this storyline, but let's not forget that she might actually be guilty of trying to blow up military bases, and if it's true, who's she working for? And also, if it is true, she could do some serious damage in the prison. I think there's definitely a lot more to this storyline with a few twists, and I can't wait for it to unfold. So, okay, so that's enough of Judy for now. So I'm going to jump straight into the Ferguson storyline, which dominated this episode. And I must say, I was really impressed with the episode as a whole. Because from the moment the episode began, we were introduced to a lot of Ferguson flashbacks to the times when she was governor and the times when she was a prisoner. All her best bits, literally in a little bit of a flashback memory type of thing. It was brilliant. And is always good to see, but Ferguson, or aka Kath Maxwell, at this stage is in a coma. And we've learned that she's had brain surgery, and she's been in this coma for around 2 weeks, which would explain why we didn't see her last episode. So anyway, do you remember the detective who was trying to investigate Ferguson's escape back in season 6? Well, they've brought those guys back, which is brilliant. And so this detective, he's in the hospital at the start of this episode, looking at Ferguson in the coma. So he goes to the prison to inform Vera and Will that Ferguson is alive and in the hospital. Much to Vera's shock. I mean, did you see her face? It was almost like she went into some sort of parallel universe for a moment. It was brilliant. And so a shocked Vera literally asks the question that we've all been asking probably for about 12 months now. Like, how is this even possible when Ferguson's body was found buried in the ground? And the detective replies by saying that they always knew that the dead body that they found way back in season 6 wasn't Ferguson's. They just didn't want to tell anyone. They didn't want to tell anyone, not even Vera or Will. The detectives knew that Ferguson was still alive after the DNA wasn't a match, and they wanted Ferguson to eventually come out of hiding, which I thought was a really good explanation, because I think for the last 2 years, loads of us fans have been saying, how can the police be so stupid to not know that that body is not Ferguson's after doing a DNA test? And the answer to that question was simple. They didn't tell anyone, and it was brilliant. Some may say predictable, but I think very plausible, and I'm very satisfied with that. So anyway, the detective then tells Vera that they need her to come to the hospital to formally identify Ferguson. Or just to confirm that it is Ferguson. So Vera goes down to the hospital, and you can just see the horror in her face. Ferguson is still here, for now. So, further into this development about Ferguson, we finally learn in flashback scenes how Ferguson managed to get out of that box. So, let's take a little trip down memory lane. So back in season 5, Ferguson had a near-death experience when the women hanged her in the yard. After that, Ferguson's only option was to escape the prison. So when Jake learnt about Frankie and Ali's escape, he told Ferguson about it. Now don't forget, Ferguson had a lot on Jake, or still has, but at the time she was really blackmailing him to do all sorts. So Jake made a deal with Ali behind Ferguson's back that when Ferguson escapes using Ali's place, he was going to get rid of Ferguson forever. However, during the final episode of season 5, Ferguson was goading Will and trying to wind him up by telling him that he was weak, he doesn't have the guts to go through with anything, and basically she was taking the mick out of his manhood, basically, which ended up sending Will over the edge. So Will works with Jake on letting Ferguson escape, but Will makes the decision to get rid of Ferguson once and for all when she reaches the outside. You guys still with me? Okay, so before Ferguson makes her escape, we learn that Ferguson has made a phone call to ex-officer Brenda Murphy. Now, we don't know what was exactly said during this phone call, but we are led to believe that Ferguson telephoned Brenda Murphy to follow the truck that was exporting the boxes that she was hiding in, and then for Brenda to come and get Ferguson out of the box. And I'm assuming Ferguson was going to go on the run and hide at Brenda's house, and they were going to cook up some plan or whatever. But then Ferguson's box, it was taken in the pickup truck, which was being driven by Mr. Jackson, before Brenda had a chance to go and get Ferguson. So Brenda followed Mr. Jackson to the woods and watched him bury Ferguson alive. As soon as Mr. Jackson left, Brenda unburied Ferguson and got her out of the box. Still with me, guys? Good. So this is actually, I think, a good explanation, even if it was predictable, because if you cast your minds back to season 6, Brenda Murphy was stalking Vera and trying to blackmail a lot of money out of her, and this all makes sense because Ferguson needed money to get out of the country, and Brenda was clearly working for her. I think Brenda would have liked to have thought she was working with her, but she was working for her. But just as Brenda was about to get the money off Vera, still in season 6 now, guys, when Brenda goes to get the money off Vera, Channing ended up shooting Brenda in the head. So that plan fell out the window and Ferguson was left on her own. Her plan had gone to shit, basically. So we don't really know what she's been up to since then. However, it is told during this episode that when Ferguson was attacked by the old homeless guy, he took her bag, which had around $30,000 in it. So Ferguson has been living rough and somehow collecting all this money. I have no idea how she managed to get so much money. I mean, I personally would love to know. I could do with an extra 30 grand. But anyway, that's what she's been up to. Maybe she's been thieving, stealing around to get money. So we then also learn who the person is in the box, and the person in the box is the real Kath Maxwell, and Ferguson took her identity and has been using it ever since. Again, slightly predictable, but I don't care. I am so glad we finally have closure on how Ferguson got out of that box. It was a big question that we all wanted answers for, and we got it in proper Freak style and in flashback things. For me, I'm sorted. So anyway, everything is explained. However, Ferguson is now stuck in this coma, and Vera, Will and Jake are all shitting themselves, waiting to see what's going to happen when she wakes up, or even if she does wake up. I mean, at one point during the episode, Vera even says, hopefully, she'll never wake up. But Mr. Jackson is happy now that he is no longer a murderer, but obviously he's worried about what's going to come next. And Jake is also very worried. I mean, Ferguson had him as her puppet, which he eventually broke free of after her disappearance. And to be fair, Jake has tried his hardest to turn his life around. I mean, he makes stupid decisions sometimes, but he isn't all bad. He's not pure evil. Remember when he danced with Liz last season? And how lush has he been with baby Grace this season? So there has been a massive change in him over the last 2 seasons, but I think now he's probably the most terrified out of all 3 officers, terrified that he is going to be controlled by Ferguson again. So at one point during the episode, Will goes to the hospital by himself, and I think he's literally just having a pinch myself moment. And even the detective tells Will that it's hard to believe, isn't it? And But also the detective mentioned Derek Channing in this scene, so I'm wondering whether if Derek Channing will be back at some point, either in this season or in season 9 next year. I mean, he is the one who's been blamed for all of this, so I can see him escaping from the men's prison and coming back for revenge, because he became very unhinged back in season 6, so maybe when he learns that Ferguson is alive, he may try and break out of his prison to try and extract final revenge. Remember, he is extremely dangerous because he did shoot Murphy. Maybe he will get himself hurt in the men's prison on purpose and get himself sent to the hospital where he can try and get at Joan. I don't think we have seen the last of Channing yet, especially just because his name was mentioned in this episode. It's always a hint when other characters use an old character's name to refresh your memories of unfinished business. Anyway, the detective guy is basically wondering what's going on in Joan's head. And this leads on to an absolutely crazy, random, amazing scene. So we delve into Ferguson's head once again while she's in the coma, and Ferguson is back in her padded cell. Remember, she was sent to the nut house back in season 4 and put in a padded room. So we get some flashbacks to that moment when she was probably at her lowest, and we literally see a Ferguson versus Ferguson moment. I can't believe I'm saying this, but we do, because we have basically a broken down Ferguson sitting on the floor looking rather worse for wear, and then we have a very strong Governor Ferguson standing above the broken Ferguson, telling the broken Ferguson that she is a victim, and she cannot succumb to the darkness. It's almost like Ferguson has just got two different versions of her in this scene, and it's total. She's literally a total maniac with split personalities. But even though she is a maniac, she's very clever, which makes her extremely dangerous in my opinion. So anyway, this strong Ferguson is hitting the broken down Ferguson, telling her to basically get a grip, sort her head out. It was rather entertaining to see. I mean, it was a Ferguson versus Ferguson moment. If somebody told me that we would have been having that a few years ago, I'd be like, whatever. But it worked. It really did. But what does this scene mean? Well, does it mean that Ferguson is going to come back when she wakes up? She's going to become this very strong character once again. Time will tell. Hold that thought anyway, because a later scene sees Jake taking matters into his own hands. So as I said earlier, I think he is the most frightened out of the three officers. So he decides to steal some sort of drug from the prison hospital and sneaks over to the other hospital to try and inject Joan with a fatal dose of something to basically stop her from waking up. So he has it in his head that because she's in a coma with a serious head injury after having major surgery, there won't be an autopsy if she doesn't wake up. So in a very tense scene, while Jake is alone with Ferguson, he starts getting the drug ready. But at the same time, we are treated to another freaky scene of what's going on inside Joan's head. And I've got to say, guys, I found this scene slightly disturbing. I don't know if it's just me, but I'm being serious. During the scene, Governor Ferguson is laying under a load of dirt, while the homeless Ferguson is burying her. And it's just so creepy, and all we can see with the Governor Ferguson is a white head sticking out of the dirt. And then she opens her eyes and she lets out this really high-pitched scream before her head is buried. Like, honest to God, am I the only person who found this scene slightly disturbing? It's the sort of thing that would give me nightmares. I don't know what it was. I just found it so creepy. And there was like really weird music in the background. It was really tense. And it was literally like a horror film. Which was great but freaky at the same time. Anyway, the point of this scene is for us to really realise, like, Ferguson, this homeless version of Ferguson is burying the Governor version, which is her real strong own personality. And what we see then is her picking up the Kath Maxwell card in this sort of dream sequence. And it's showing us that she's going to start using the Kath Maxwell identity. And in other words, I think she's going to fake losing her memory at some point when she wakes up. Hold that thought, we're nearly getting to that point. But yes, I thought this scene was absolutely superb. As scary as it was bloody amazing. So, yeah, anyway, I'm forgetting. At the same time now, Jake is trying to kill Ferguson. So, Ferguson literally, after having a little insight into her disturbed mind, she opens her eyes just as Jake is about to inject that fatal dose. And she looks at Jake, like she stares at him. So Jake shits his pants and he does a runner. Like I said, guys, this scene was absolutely superb. It's up there as one of the best scenes of the season so far. So Jake runs to Vera's house and he tells Vera what just happened and that they need to do a runner. He even tells her that he tried to hotshot Ferguson. But Vera tells him no, they're not going on the run, they will just have to take their chances, and eventually Jake reluctantly agrees and goes home. But we can see just how scared Vera is as well. I mean, this could literally be it for her, Will and Jake, and yeah, you can just tell by her face that it's one or the other now. So it's not long before the detective is back ringing Vera and asking her to come to the hospital as they have questioned Ferguson. So Jake and Will tell Vera that they will take the blame and keep her name out of it, but then Vera drops a bombshell. What if Ferguson has a copy of that photo that Murphy took of all three of them at Ferguson's supposed graveside? Definitely, that's going to come back at some point, I'm telling you right now, guys. So the three of them decide to go to the hospital to see this detective, and this is just a great scene. The detective pulls the curtain and he asks Joan if she recognises any of these people, as in Will, Jake or Vera. And in a very long, tense standoff scene, Ferguson looks up at the three of them. Literally, it's absolutely amazing, them just staring at each other. But she then turns around to the detective and tells him she doesn't recognise any of them, and that her name isn't Joan, it is Kath Maxwell. So, is Ferguson faking her memory loss, or is she actually telling the truth? I personally think she is lying, and I think the whole point of those scenes, of the scenes that we were treated to, of what's going on inside Ferguson's disturbed mind, is it was kind of telling us that's the route she was going down. She's very clever, and I mean, I know she took a very big beating on the head, but I think she is faking. And yeah, she doesn't really have any other cards to play, does she? So what better way to mindfuck Vera, Jake and Will? She is out for revenge, and she is going to torture the three of them in this storyline. It's going to be epic. Let me know in the comments box below, do you think Joan has really lost her memory or not? Let me know. But for me, I think she's faking. Right, now that's all the Ferguson stuff out of the way. Believe it or not, a lot of other stuff happened too. So I'm going to start with the closing of the protection unit. So this is actually a great moment in the season. So the first 3 episodes of the season has been plain sailing for Ali and her crew. Not many threats apart from Luke Haley, but Ali sorted that out with a finger. But most of the women don't seem to have much beef with each other or with Ali, and last week they were all united, nice and easy for the hunger strike. In fact, the prison probably hasn't been running any more smoothly. So, what better way to cause ultimate chaos than to shut down the protection unit? It is a genius move by the writers, and it's going to throw the prison upside down. So, Reynolds, surprise surprise, needs to keep cutting costs, and she does this by closing the protection unit, meaning that all the baby killers and Mari Winter, they're coming back into general. That really isn't good news for Ali, because like I said, let's face it, Ali has been running a nicely tight ship since the siege. But you have to look at the big picture. Mari has been locked away, and Ali only really got to be top dog after what she did to Officer Brody in the siege. Otherwise, I'm pretty sure Rita would have been crowned the new top dog, but of course Rita is currently AWOL. So Ali became the new top dog with the support of the women, but now things could start to change and unravel for her. Like I said, there's only really been one threat, and that was Luke Haley, and Ali hasn't had anyone to contend with. Now she has all these nutters, baby killers, and of course Mari back in general. So Mr. Jackson asks Ali to protect all these high-grade prisoners and to keep them off limits, including Mari. But I look at it in another way, guys. Listen to me now. Who is going to protect our women, you know, like Boomer, Ali, all the normal prisoners? Who is going to protect them from these high-grade prisoners? Like, seriously, if all these high-grade prisoners decide to team up against Ali and the women, they are in shit street. Like, these are very serious, dangerous women that have had to be locked away, not just for their safety, but for the safety of others. So I think it's going to be very interesting as the season goes on. And I'm very, very worried as well for baby Grace being in that creche in the prison walls right now. If there are crazy baby killers back in general and they find out that there's a creche in the prison, what's to stop one of them trying to get the babies? Oh, it doesn't even bear thinking about. But I just hope Ferguson is there to save any babies that could be in danger this season. Because, I mean, Ferguson might be a nutcase, but she's proven to save babies in the past. So Ferguson might be able to redeem herself later on down the line. But we'll wait and see what happens. But I do have a feeling that you know, these dangerous prisoners that are back in general is just asking for trouble, and I don't think Anne Reynolds realises what she's actually in for. I can sense a total bloodbath on the horizon. Anyway, Ali tells Mr. Jackson that she will get the women to stay away from all the high-risk prisoners apart from Mari. Mari can take her chances in general with no protection. And I can totally understand why Ali is pissed off, because we learned that Mr. Jackson knew about Ali's cell being bugged last week. So Ali's literally lost trust in him, which I don't blame him. And he does try to explain that there was nothing he could do, but Ali isn't having any of it. And this could prove more dangerous later on down the line, because if Ali starts to turn on the governor and the officers, all rules will be thrown out the window. It's never good when the top dog and the governor or officers lose that kind of relationship. World War III will literally start. And even worse, if Ali is toppled by top dog, by someone even more dangerous later on down the line, as in Lou Kelly, then like I said, the shit is really gonna hit the fan. So later in the episode, Mari visits Ali to explain that she's a changed woman and that she doesn't want to kill Ruby anymore. But Ali is having none of it. Ali pins up Mari against the wall and tells her that when the women come for her, she won't stop them, she'll cheer them on. It's a great tense scene because you can see in Mari's face during this scene that she's lost Ali. The old Ali is gone. Although there is a little small part of me in this scene that makes me think that Ali wants to believe Mari just a little bit. But she just cannot get her head around everything that happened during the siege. And so she basically just tells Mari to do one, and rather than let Mari get back inside her head, because even though Ali is this strong new top dog, all top dogs have a weakness, and I think Mari could be Ali's. So there's another scene that happens during this episode, and it's when Mari joins the women in the dining room for the first time, and it's a great scene because from the moment she walks in, you can literally hear a pin drop. The women stop talking and they all just watch Mari. You can literally see the hatred in the women's eyes, especially Boomer. And it was really good to see one of Kaz's red right-hand crew in this scene. The character Mon. It was great to see Mon back because last time we saw Mon was during Kaz's memorial. And Mon and the crew tried to take out Mari during the memorial. So it was great to see her back. And it's not long before Mon gets up and welcomes Mari back by throwing her to the floor and starts giving her a good kick-in. But Miss Miles is there and she whacks Mon with the baton and gets her sent on the block. Boomer was almost about to jump in and stick the boot in, but she managed to sit down just in time before Miss Miles saw her. But then that other new girl, I can't remember her name at this minute in time, but she runs over and she spits a load of food out at Mari, so Miss Miles restrains her and takes her to the slot. So Ali takes the opportunity to tell Mari that if she goes anywhere near Ruby, she will kill her. It's absolutely mental. I really wouldn't want to be in Mari's shoes. Literally everyone hates her after what happened during the siege, and also not only that, because of the history she had with Kaz. And even though Mari didn't kill Kaz, I suppose it was kind of Mari's secret file storyline that ended up causing Kaz to get murdered by Officer Brody. I mean, there's so much bad blood in history, and I think Mari needs to learn some kickboxing or something. She ain't gonna survive much longer. Anyway, let's move over onto a little bit of Reb and Lou. So Reb, he collapsed in last week's episode after taking some dodgy steroids. So Reb is back in the prison hospital, but is in a very bad place mentally. I mean, he tells Lou that he can't live his life. If he doesn't want to go on living, if he can't live his life as a man anymore, he would rather die, which really upsets Lou. Another great emotional scene. You literally see how much this is killing the both of them. So Lou decides that enough is enough and decides to make a shiv. So what basically Reb has told Lou about Mari's offer, which happened back in episode 1. So Mari asked Reb to kill Ruby for her, and that she'd give her 40 grand. So Reb has told Lou, and now Lou is now taking it upon herself to go and kill Ruby. So, but what Lou doesn't realise is that Mari has actually apparently changed her mind after her near-death experience and after her alleged epiphany. She no longer wants Ruby dead, and she's starting a clean slate, basically. So when Ruby goes to the shower block, after her little workout with Boomer, Lou goes to the cell to grab the shiv, but she is interrupted by Reb, and when Reb asks Lou what is she doing, Lou tells Reb that she's going to kill Ruby to get the money, and basically she's willing to take up Mari's offer. She'll do anything to make Reb happy. Reb tells Lou not to do it, but Lou is adamant that she can do this and it will solve all of their problems. So Reb tells Lou that he wants to double check with Mari first that the deal still stands. So Lou agrees to go to the showers but wait and not do anything until Reb has gone to see Mari, but he has to be quick, as this is the best chance for Lou to sort Ruby out. So while Lou heads to the shower block, Reb is running around the prison looking for Mari. Lou starts to get a bit impatient, and when Ruby is alone in the showers, Lou can't help herself and she goes in for the kill. She grabs Ruby from behind, but to be fair, Ruby puts up a great struggle and starts to slam Lou against the sink and even manages to bash Lou's hands to free the blade. So, but Lou manages to grab Ruby and she slams her really hard up against the wall, causing Ruby to have a fit and fall to the ground. So Reb finds Mari and asks Mari, is the deal still on? And Mari's like, what deal? And she ends up legging it to the shower block to try and stop Lou. But Boomer sees Mari and Reb run in and follows on. So when Mari gets to the shower block, she manages to grab the shiv from the floor before Lou does any damage. So Mari tells Lou that she no longer wants Ruby dead, and Reb is also screaming at Lou, telling her that they have to make a run for it, and then Boomer walks in. So Lou and Reb make a run for it, and Mari is left holding the shiv, so it's now looking like that Mari is the guilty one here, because Boomer sees Ruby having a fit on the floor and assumes that Mari is about to kill her. So Boomer gets her fists ready and she's about to fight Mari, but you can see how bad Ruby is on the floor and instead pushes the panic button for help, and Mari makes a run for it before she gets a chance to explain properly to Boomer what's just happened. So what a twist. Mari saves Ruby. I literally never saw that one coming. But now Mari is going to get the blame. I mean, that is until Ruby gets a chance to talk to Ali and tell her what really happened. But poor Mari, she's copping the blame for now. So when Boomer tells Ali what she saw in the shower block, Ali sees red. She goes insane. And Ali goes to find Mari in the yard and beats the crap out of her, punching her over and over in the face until the officers restrain her and take her to the slot. So I think in this episode, the slot is starting to get quite full, the amount of people that have been shoved down there. But it was great to finally see Ali lose her shit, use her tough skills. Even though Mari isn't really much of a match, let's face it, but things are slowly starting to fall out of control for everyone now. And this leads me on to the next part with Luke Kelly and Anne Reynolds. So the plot thickens here, guys. So Anne Reynolds, she really is a slippery character, isn't she? All she's interested in is getting her own way, and I think after seeing Ali attack Mari, she knows that she has to do something drastic to stop it from happening again, because she does mention that she has a big meeting next week with the minister and the bosses next week, so she needs to keep things running smooth. So Anne basically decides to offer Lou Kelly a deal. She tells Lou that she wants her to look after all of those crazy women that have been released from protection, including Mari, and that she also wants her to keep an eye on Judy Bryant and to report everything back to her. And in return, Anne will let Reb have his HRT again and will help with any costing of any operations needed going forward. So, and I don't think Lou Kelly is a lagger. She's an old school, criminal. She knows the score. So she isn't a lagger, but and nor does she want to be head of a crew where some of the women are kid killers, but she will do anything for Reb, and Anne is taking advantage of this. So with Lou becoming the head of this new crew, is Ali's top dog role now in trouble? We are definitely in for a showdown, especially as all these women that are going to be on Lou's crew are extremely dangerous. They're high risk. I think Anne is going to regret this decision later on down the line, because any trouble, she could get the blame for all this. So she's playing a very dangerous game. So there was no Rita again in this episode. However, she is back next week and she has some really big scenes. So don't worry, guys, she is on her way back. But all in all, an absolutely amazing episode. I think it's the best episode we've had since the Siege episodes. And remember, Kate Atkinson, who plays Vera, she said in an interview that Season 8 is out of control. So we haven't seen anything yet, guys. The best is still yet to come. So let me know in the comments box below. what was your favourite moment from this episode? And do you think the freak is faking or not? My favourite moment was probably the ending scene when Ferguson finally came face to face with Vera, Will and Jake, and I definitely think that the freak is faking, but let me know in the comments box below what you think. And on the subject of comments, it's that time again for some comment replies. So we have James Windle. Boomer is the best, don't you think? Her scenes were great in this episode. I hope she stays to the very end. Can you imagine her as top dog? LMFAO. Oh, thank you for your comment, James. I love Boomer. Boomer is literally... She is one of my favourite characters, but she's up there in my top 3. I absolutely love her, and I love Katrina, who plays her. Katrina or Boomer, either or, I would get on very well with, and I'd love to go on a night out with both of them. So thank you for your comment. KK and Sims 4. I'm pretty sure Sheila is a crazy bitch. Oh, so Sheila is a character who still hasn't come into the season yet. I think she might be coming in next week's episode or episode 6. Either episode 5 or episode 6. It's definitely the second half of this season, but yeah, she's going to be some crazy storylines coming her way. She was a cult leader, and I think she has history with Lou and Reb, so interesting scenes to come with her, and I'm very excited for her to come. So thank you KK and Sims for your comment. And we have There's Lopez. Thanks for such a great in-depth review. I missed the episode and my device wasn't compatible with the app. Best review I've listened to and don't feel like I've missed out much at all now. Oh, thank you There's Lopez. So I try to go into as much detail as I can. There will be moments where I might miss something out. I'm pretty sure when I did season 8 episode 1 review, there was one or two pieces that I missed out in the video, but I didn't realise till like the following week. But it is what it is. I try my hardest, but I always make sure I delve into the important bits. But thank you for your comment. We have Macy Valota. I truly wonder why Ruby and Ali broke up. I mean, I do like them better as friends. I just wonder what the reason why. So Macy, basically, they got it on for a bit, and then Ali went over to Mari, and then when Ali came back, when she split up from Mari, Ruby and Ali were thinking of getting back together, but there was a scene where Ali basically told Ruby that she needs to be stronger, become a stronger person within herself without having to latch on to somebody to feel loved. It was something along those lines, but they remained as best friends now, and so it ended on really good terms, which is nice. So thank you, Macy, for your comment. And we have Linda Robinson. Are you saying after season 9 there won't be any more Wentworth? I'll be upset. I love it. Please, we need more. Thank you for your comment, Linda. I've got to say, for everything that we know, season 9 is the final season. I'd like to believe that with a bit more willpower of us all maybe getting some signatures like we did after season 7, with them winning more awards, I'd like to think that they could maybe continue on, but I just have a feeling that they've had the opportunity to renew it for 2 final seasons, so they're going to try and close everything off after season 9. So it is confirmed to be the very end. But never say never. There is a slim chance things could change between now and end of next year, but at this moment in time, season 9 will be the last, and that will be a very sad day. But thank you for your comment, and thank you all for your amazing comments. Keep them coming, as I love hearing all of your views, your theories. I absolutely love it, and I always try to respond as best as I can, and one of your comments may end up in the next video. So keep those comments coming. So interesting, there was no trailer for next week's episode from Foxtel again. I know there have been trailers from New Zealand and in the UK, but there was no preview from Foxtel. So I think we might be in for another big episode next week. So guys, if you've made it to the end of this video, then thank you for sticking around until the end. Make sure that you are subscribed, as I will be back with an episode 5 spoiler video very soon, and you will not want to miss it. Also, me and my other half, Peter, will be doing a live video after next week's episode. It won't be on the Tuesday. Let me just check the dates here. It's going to be on... a week tomorrow, so it will be on Friday the 28th of August will be when me and Peter will be going live to respond to some of your questions, and we'll be talking about how we think this season is panning out so far. So you won't want to miss that, so make sure that you are subscribed. Alright guys, so take care everyone, I will see you all very soon.